Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of the Art of Evolution podcast,
Welcome.
the place where we have insightful conversations about everything, diving into human consciousness and the way we live our life. Meaningful, in-depth conversations. And I'm George.
Wazee.
Awesome. And we've got a lovely podcast again for you guys today. Thank you to all of you who replied your lovely words about the last two episodes and asked questions and gave us new topics to discuss. We have so much. We have enough for another 3 or 4 weeks of just stuff, just from people's input already.
Yeah, it's quite touching actually.
Yeah, it really is.
When people reach out and they tell us how much they've benefited from what we've shared, and that they really connect with the playfulness of it, how it's fluid, and they told me, or a couple have been telling me, that it's a joy to listen and at the same time you learn, which is exactly how we wanted to design it.
That's what we want, yeah. I mean, we're just sharing our conversations on record, and so we are really grateful that all of you who have enjoyed it so far are even tuning in, and we just love all the words that you've been sending us.
And just in this moment, I just want to acknowledge that I feel so much love for you all. Just everyone who's listening now, I just feel so much love for you all, and I really have just such a strong intention and aspiration, you could say, that you all blossom and really come in contact with a sense of fulfillment, that you fulfill all your endeavors on the outside, on the inside, and that we all can live a life that is truly fulfilling. I mean, because that is our potential. And I see it every day now with the people I meet, the people I interact with, and the people this center is attracting. It's attracting people who are yearning for something more than just living a good life, who actually want to live a life that is fulfilling, that's truly fulfilling, that you can where you can sit down and feel well-rounded almost, that you can feel whole, you can feel a sense of completeness. And that is a part of our human potential. That is a part of our human potential, which is quite astounding. And all of that potential is before us, up for grabs. So this podcast is designed to begin to tap into that potential, to illuminate that potential, to illuminate our situation, to illuminate methodologies, practices that that can be tools for us as human beings to become empowered, to tap into that potential and begin living our true heart's aspiration on a daily basis.
Exactly that, and that leads us perfectly into our first topic, which a few of you asked about, which is something, if you know me or Wazee personally, we talk about a lot, and it's talked about a lot in every sphere of spirituality, which is intuition, and how to tune into that, what exactly that is, and some of the problems and struggles that arise with that, because I know that I've been on a path of trying to lead my intuition for a long time, and sometimes it's hard to locate exactly what that is and where it's coming from. So have you got any words about what intuition actually is, for starters? And
Yes. So intuition is directly linked with a form of, the best analogy for it is a compass.
Compass.
It's an inner compass that is designed to really, or which guides you towards your most ideal, it guides you to live the life you were designed to live, in a sense, that is most ideal for you to live, not only for yourself, but in relation to the cosmos, in relation to the whole, the collective. So how I like to put it is, I feel that my intuition is my interface with the cosmic, with the collective. And by listening and allowing and following my intuition, I am living in harmony. I'm plugging in to the greater collective, to the greater whole, so that I can lead that I can lead a life that is connected. So it's a way to connect. It's directly linked to connection. And just in the same way that when you're looking on a compass, let's say you're on a boat and you're looking at the compass, when the compass is undistorted, it is, and when you're really linked with your compass, it actually, which is quite magnificent, astounding, that it actually leads you towards happiness, towards fulfillment, towards your heart's desire. And in our methodology, the art of evolution, intuition has a physical location in the body, and it's seated in the heart. It's seated in the heart, and when you really come in touch with your intuition, you can kind of feel yourself being guided from the center, from the heart center, from the chest center. And this again is directly linked to a sense of purpose, a sense of purposefulness. My experience is that our intuition will also always have a sense of purposefulness linked to it. It's not haphazard or meaningless, or in the sense that it's not random. It has an intelligence to it, and it has a direction, and that direction is rooted in a purposefulness. And that purposefulness, again, is directly connected to benefit, wanting to be of benefit, evolutionary benefit, but just also generally being of benefit to oneself and to the collective.
Okay, and so intuition's internal compass is something which guides you towards that natural state of fulfillment and happiness. But I think often it's easy to confuse with, desires and wants that aren't your intuition, and it's hard to distinguish your intuition from your just everyday wants and needs and desires. And tuning into that, I think for some people, is the hardest step. Is it recognizing the difference between intuition and a want, especially when there's things like addiction involved, to anything, coffee.
Yeah.
In the morning I could wake up, say if it's actually the reason I gave up coffee. I was barista and drinking coffee, and I would wake up and I'd want a coffee, and I'd think, okay, this is actually me wanting a coffee, and I believed it was, my intuition saying so, and so sometimes it was. Sometimes I really did enjoy, going for a coffee, but it was hard to distinguish, in my mind, the egoic sense of want from something which was really guiding me from within. I wonder what you have to say on those kind of...
So, in terms of food, coffee, that is quite, in a sense, surface level. So when I speak about intuition, it's usually connected to something deeper, something more meaningful, something more purposeful, in the sense of it has a little bit more significance. So it's more tied to our direction in life as a whole. Where are we heading? What do we like? The bigger questions. It's more connected to that existential aspect of direction and wants and desires. For instance, if you have a background where you have an aspiration to create something that you feel that's going to benefit someone, or let's say you're a doctor and you've had this vision of creating a hospital in Africa, then if that is really true to you, authentic to you, and you really feel heartfully, this is something that I can create and that I want to create, then by tuning into your intuition, you would be able to be guided in making that come to life. It will guide you in and direct you in making that come to life and kind of drawing that in. So when it comes to the desire for coffee or addictions, that's kind of more of a connected to our primal nature, our primal needs, basically. So it's working on a different level of our system.
I think those different levels, I think when you think about intuition and it leading your life on an existential or transcendental level, it does seep into every level of your life. It does seep into your everyday decisions, be it with food, be it with what clothes to wear, and although that is very, very surface level, like you say, in my experience, I've found those practices and practicing following intuition in the surface level to better recognize that feeling within the heart center, and follow the more existential lifetime paths.
Yes. Just on that note, I just want to make a distinguish between our instincts and our intuition. So in this case, our instincts connects to our belly, and that connects to what do we actually need on a physical level now. What are we yearning for? What are we desiring? So it's very important. So kind of the key word here is listening. Refining your ability to listen to your body, to your being. So listening to the body, meaning listening to your instincts. Your instinct is telling you, today I need some spinach. Today I need some nourishment and some nutrition through spinach. And sometimes you will feel that, like, instinctively, I want spinach. Like you have, and which is also formulated in your mind as I want spinach. Or you're drawn to a certain food, for instance, which is your body telling you this, the nutritions held in that food is something that I yearn for now. So in that case, that would be you listening to your instincts, which is very important, because if you want to live a healthy life and you want your body to be healthy, to prosper, to feel vibrant, to feel on point, then you need to listen to it, because it has its own innate intelligence. So, but the intuition is more connected to your purpose. It's more connected to your heart, to your calling. That's how I see it. So it's kind of listening to your intuition and listening to your instinct. And that's a way also to kind of delineate between intuition and instinct, and kind of gain some more clarity as to when I'm listening, what am I listening to? Is this my intuition that I'm listening to, or is it my instinct that I'm listening to?
I think that does clear up quite well. I think that distinction is important, because what I was talking about might have been, in a lot of cases, my instinct, and thinking about that being intuition, like how to go about your days intuitively. Would you say it takes an equal kind of balance of following instincts and intuition?
Yes, I would say it's so important that we listen to our instincts, but our listening can become distorted, or it can be kind of clouded. Our listening can become clouded. So we think it's our instincts telling us we need this, but in truth, it's actually kind of an addiction. It's more become an addiction. Like the body is sending messages of I want this, I want this, I want this, but it's not the body telling you, I need this because that's going to benefit me. So that's kind of a corruption happening, a corrupted process happening within us that is not actually for our benefit, but where the intelligence of the body has become somewhat corrupted by being overstimulated with a certain thing, or having received certain food or drink or whatever that's gotten addicted to. So there's the potential for addiction. The body can get addicted to things.
Well, I have a really addictive personality, in that I'll get addicted to normal things, and it's normally, for me, it's like healthy things, so it's not like awful, but I do find that is a clouding aspect of my instincts, or my intuitive processes, but in my own personal practice, what I've found helps with that is, if you see any sort of addiction or even, habits forming that might cloud it, recognizing it. And so when approaching, for example, naked bars, I love them so much that I'll have one a day, but then I'll get, sometimes I don't really want one, but I'm like really kind of, no, I do want one, because I love naked bars, and I think that because the sugar in them is so like addictive, really. And so sugar is a big one, and that kind of clouds what I may believe to be good for me with what I want on a different level, and practice and recognizing addictions so that you can either take steps to break the addiction and then before going back to doing those things in a more instinctive way, or it takes a slowing down and a really constantly tuning back in. Otherwise I think it's easy in this world full of things which are designed to make you addicted, because that's what the whole of the economic system's designed on, kind of, if you buy something, they want you to almost get addicted to it and buy more, and so I think it's hard in the day and age we live in now to avoid anything which isn't even slightly addictive, on that level. I mean, I'm not talking about massive addictions which are life-changing, but I'm talking about little day-to-day things that may cloud decisions. And
yes. And just to make this, so the key here is really everything starts with awareness. To develop an honest relationship with your life, with yourself, to just develop an honest wanting to know the truth of your own experience, to the truth of your own being on all levels, wanting to know that, okay, at the moment I'm being controlled by my addiction, and being okay with that. That's the truth. That is the truth of what is happening. This is a controlling pattern that is impulsive, that is quite primal, and it's running me, and I don't feel I have the capacity to override it in a sense, and just see that. And one thing that, or the tendency for a lot of people, is to avoid seeing themselves truthfully because they don't want to feel bad about themselves, or they don't want to, or that has the tendency to kind of trigger, oh, I'm not good enough, or so one thing leads to another. But everything begins with just an honest awareness connected with a kindness, with a loving embrace of yourself as, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm doing the best that I can. I want to do the best that I can, and I want to propel myself forward in expanding my awareness, expanding my consciousness, and developing a deeper understanding of myself. And simply engaging that process, you will begin to let go of things that doesn't vibe with you. If you've gotten to the root of your addiction, just seeing in full clarity, I'm addicted, this is not causing me any good, that in of itself, simply seeing the truth of your activity, will disempower it somewhat. It will take some power out of it. And every time every time you eat that bar, simply be aware. I'm eating the bar, but I know that I'm indulging, and that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not to say that it was.
No, I'm not. I'm just putting that in an example. So I'm not projecting that that's the case for you. I'm just using that as an example as in your day-to-day experience. Whenever, just the key is really to make your whole life conscious, to make every action you make in your day-to-day life, be aware, be awake to all the actions you make. And the beautiful thing, which I've observed to be kind of a principle of life, is that we all want to live, the people I've met so far at least, or most of them, want to live the best life they can live. So when you see something that is not really optimizing in its nature, when you observe something about you that is incongruent with who you want to be or who you aspire to become, naturally you're going to want to shift into that version of yourself. So you're going to want to kind of let go of the things that hold you back, and that begins with an honest awareness of seeing yourself truthfully. So it's the kind of the balance of seeing, okay, I have an aspiration. I want to be the best person I want to be. So you have a direction. You have an orientation of wanting to move towards something, and while simultaneously you're aware of, this is holding me back from that. I'm aware that this addiction or whatever is doesn't fit with that paradigm. And simply by seeing that, you will begin to shift gently towards letting that go and that having that disempowerment. And just to kind of wrap this up, another thing that is quite important is, when we have an addiction, in order to really fully integrate it or conquer it, you could say, we need to get to the root of it. We need to really inquire and investigate, why am I so addictive? Where does this pattern come from? What's the origin of this pattern? What's the root of this pattern? And really dive into, with kind of with a genuine curiosity, is how I approach it. Just out of curiosity and out of an intense desire to simply want to know the truth, investigate it. Like, what is this really? What is this? And why is this pattern operating in me?
I think going back to intuition, and so we've got instincts and we've got things that cloud that, and living intuitively, would you say the best method to do so is contemplation on what that may be and tuning in, or is it a matter of practice entirely?
Intuition. So now we've kind of gone on from instincts to intuition, right? So intuition, just for the simplicity, is connected to your purpose in life. Like it's connected to, let's say you were to design your life, your most ideal life. Your intuition will guide you on how to live that life and how to serve your purpose, how to serve your function, how to utilize your talents for the greater good, which involves you living the best life you can live. So if we just use that as a working definition and of what the function of intuition is, then one can say that it's absolutely significant to figure out, what do I truly want? What is my true heart's aspiration? What do I aspire towards? Because if you don't have that, if you're not connected with that frequency, with that, which is actually more of a vibration, it doesn't need to be, I want to create a hospital, or I need to do this and I need to do that. It is more like a heartfelt sense of, what do I truly want? And coming in touch with your heart, coming in touch with like the heart of your being, and at the heart of your being is that vibration of just simply kind of a creative dynamism of simply wanting to live a life that is purposeful, that is meaningful, and living up to your calling, like really finding a calling and wanting to become a part of something, the greater collective. And when you've kind of arrived and found that vibration within yourself and that calling within yourself, then you can begin to refine your perception and over time more skillfully be able to distinguish what is when is it that the intuition, that calling, that purposefulness guiding my way, guiding my direction, versus, for instance, my egoic desires. I want to be wealthy. I want to be famous. Why? I just want to be famous, like, everybody, is it? Or I want to have this, that, or the other. Why? You see, that's much more on a surface level. It doesn't have a why. It's a why that's connected to what we believe will give us happiness, or what we believe will give us the status or the things that we want, or everything that's connected to that nature.
Yeah, I think intuition does come from, there's two different planes I see it. It comes from an egoic level, or a level from your true inner self.
Yeah, your authenticity.
Self. And that's the one you want to be tuned into and following. Yeah. And that egoic level is an interesting one because it's hard to almost let go of, I think, sometimes. I think this leads on to a revelation I was having last night. I was lying down and just thinking about myself. I was thinking about, I was just asking questions, like, what do I want? And then I asked, well, what's the I? And who is it? Who is it wanting? And where am I going? And who is it who is saying the I in that? And broke down these different levels of who I thought I was and who I perceived myself to be, and fit intuition and instinct and all of my day-to-day activities within those levels, and put them in to almost sections, and understanding that I am not my egoic wants and needs, and even my intuition from the revelation I had last night, I didn't even identify fully with that on an aspirational level. It was just isness. There was no. It was just moment. It was just now. It was just now, and then the level kind of came in where I was physically embodied, and I had intuition as to where I feel like I'm going and where I feel like I'm doing in this kind of physical plane.
Yeah.
And then I added on mind onto that, and I said, okay, there's an egoic level of little personality, basically.
Yes.
It was, and ego isn't a bad thing. It's something which I think takes too much power, and I think the stack that I just described, I described it from a true seat of self to a embodied self to an egoic self, and I think the egoic self, a lot of the time, can, for many people, including myself, sometimes can take charge, and I don't think it should be completely put away, but definitely not take charge, because it's not you in a sense. It's you in a.
It's connected to the patterns that kind of it's connected to the patterns of your mind, of who you.
Yeah.
So in this case, let's say on the level of ego, the ego has a certain function, or you could say, let's just distinguish between mind and ego. So what you need a mind. In order to function and navigate yourself in this world, you need a mind, because the mind really are able to perceive differences. It's able to understand patterns. It's able to see cause and effect, causality. If I do this, this happens. So if you want to live in this world, having a mind is indispensable. That's absolutely fundamental. However, I can just speak from my own experience in saying that, and teachers that have been guiding me, that instead of, so let's say my mind projects a certain thought, right, of this is who you are. Now I can observe that thought arise within me. If I were to believe myself to be that thought, or if it said, you are great, for instance. If your mind projects you're great, and you say that, yeah, I'm great, and you identify with being something or someone who is great, immediately then you've entered egoic consciousness. Because then you've become defined, you've become reified, you've become a person that is great. which is actually a limitation, because you're so much more than that. You're not. What is great? What is great exactly? You see how little that is? Like, great? What is your definition of great? It's just so ephemeral in a sense. It's so insubstantial in truth. It simply points to something. So the shift that happens, there's actually a shift of identity where you see the thought, I am great, is actually arising within my awareness. I am the awareness that is perceiving the thought emerging. So the shift from universal or pure consciousness to egoic consciousness happens when the consciousness identified with the thought and believes the thought to be true and fundamental and its own identity. Does that make sense? So the key really is to, and that activity in of itself is limiting. When you identify with your egoic consciousness, you are limited, versus when you are your true nature, which is which is spacious, expansive, where you are more the container of you contain your thoughts versus being identified with them. So you contain your mind instead of being identified with your mind. And when that's the case, and when you really, I mean, this is quite advanced for a lot of people, but or generally speaking as well, to disidentify with your mind and disidentify with your ego. But when you establish that seat within the seat of the true self as an expansive, spacious awareness or consciousness, then naturally, when you contract into becoming an ego, you're going to feel contracted. You're going to feel limited. You're going to feel that this is not truly who I am. This is, and that will kind of hijack your behavior. It will make you act and react in ways that are patterned, that is not spontaneous, that is not free, that is not authentic, that is not flowing. Then you become like more rigid and very reactive in your ways. So from that perspective, you can say that ego is negative because it does limit you. However, on the other side, when you identify with your ego, don't judge yourself. It's all right. Like, it's a process, and you are an ongoing process that will continue to evolve and continue to expand. So don't judge yourself for it. But truth be told, as you excel, or as you evolve and mature, your consciousness begins to realize more and more of what and who it is, you will dip less and less into egoic consciousness. You won't experience yourself that much as an ego, because you simply see the truth of how that is not who you are. And then you can actually integrate the functions of the ego, which is actually basically optimizing your mind so that you can live a life that is good, that where you can live in this world and feel grounded, that you're on top of the game, that you're making things happen. You basically use your mind to play the game of life. I'm a human. I want to make it. I want to actualize myself. I want to actualize the best life I can possibly live. I want to be an entrepreneur, or now I'm just kind of flying off here, but I want to, make things happen. If you want to make things happen, you need to have a mind that is precise, that is sharp, that is so you can train your mind, you can refine your mind, you can design your mind in a way where it becomes a tool for you to actualize the life you want to live, and to live purposefully. So, and in that, there doesn't need to be an ego. You can simply refine your mind without identifying with it. So you begin to, you become your consciousness with the mind. So you integrate the functions of the ego, which initially is very connected to our survival in childhood. It's connected to us surviving as human beings. We develop an ego, and also the individuation of a human being to feel yourself as an individual is directly linked to that. So it has its purpose, but at a certain point, you can integrate the functions of the ego without identifying with it. And that's a quantum leap for a human being. That's a big shift where you kind of evolve out of your ego. There's still potential for you to identify with your ego, but you've made the shift where you realize, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotions. I know that this arises within me, and I can still sometimes, let's say I fall off the ball and identify with the ego. I believe in the thoughts that are being projected onto me. You might see that, but fundamentally you've come to realize my thoughts is not what I am. My emotions is not what I am.
I think that's the big first step. And relating it back to what I was thinking last night, it was exactly that. It was that step that I'd made before, but this one was a bit further. Years ago when I started this journey, I made the realization that I'm not my thoughts, and I'm not my emotions, and I'm something else. I'm something behind all of this.
Yeah.
But last night it was a observation of the functions, exactly like you just explained, an observation of the purposeness and practicality of these thoughts and these emotions. And,
yes, good.
And the almost beauty in it, in the sense that sense of individuality, the egoic sense, is it's a great thing, I believe. But as long as you're not wholly identified with it, as long as it's something which is almost an attribute of you.
So just to clarify that, in order to kind of put it into the framework that we've been presenting, is the mind is amazing. The function of the mind and how useful it is to have a strong, intelligent mind. You'll be able to live a much better life. You will be able to navigate your time on earth much better with a strong, skillful, precise, sharp mind versus a dull mind, or versus a mind that is slow and thick with negativity, etc. So I wouldn't say that identify like ego, beauty to the ego. There's beauty to the mind, I would say. The mind has beauty. The mind has like something amazing about it. The ego has a certain function, but I wouldn't put the beauty on the ego itself, if that makes sense. Because ego exists as potential. So let's say we're living, right? So you can either actualize the next moment in a state where you're not defined by your thoughts. You have a thought come up that is useful, of okay, I need to do this and that in order to actualize this. So you have some clarity, you've made a plan or whatever for something that you need to make happen. Okay, so then you contain that chain of thought within you, so you're aware of that chain of thought, and when you're aware of that, you feel kind of expansive. You don't feel controlled by it. You feel that it's sourceful, that it's authentic, that you feel like you're connected with a sense of self-mastery, in a sense of I am allowing this process, and I'm creating this process in order to reach a certain goal. If that same event was to happen from an egoic point of view, you would be kind of in that pattern, believing, oh, I need to make this happen, and kind of there is kind of this rigidity to it, like I am this egoic consciousness, and if I don't make this happen, then this will happen. And you're kind of consumed by the pattern, contracted into the pattern and contracted to the chain of thought, usually with a sense of lack and not really feeling pleasant with it. You're usually quite tense and very tense is a good word to put at it. If you want to call that beautiful, be my guest. But just for the sake of clarity, I personally prefer to be expansive, to allow the flow of life to run its course, and to be open and spacious and make that happen in that way.
I think I gave it the term beauty just because I think that if you're viewing ego on the level of individuality in the stuff, your sense of I, your sense of me-ness, then I think that is an amazing aspect of human life.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by beauty.
Totally. Then that is something else, because that sense of I is an essential I. That is not ego. That is the true individual. That's the essential me. That's the essential authentic self, which is completely different, or it's primordial to the ego. It is like the true self you're speaking about. So that sense of I, that sense of individuality, is amazingly, astoundingly beautiful. But whenever that I contracts into the ego, the tendency is for that beauty, for suffering to occur. So the question is suffering beautiful? If you can say that suffering is beautiful, but just for the sake of, conversation, and to make, if we call everything beautiful, it's very difficult to have a conversation and make it practical and pragmatic, like you can't say that everything is beautiful, which has its case, but just for the sake of the listeners and to have clarity in the conversation, the sense of the true self is astoundingly beautiful. But egoic consciousness, identifying with your individuality on the level of your body, on the level of your self-images, your ideas of yourself, is very limiting, very contracting, and is directly linked to a suffering, a sense of deficiency, a sense of lack. So that's the shift that happens. You stop identifying with your thoughts. You stop identifying with words that you believe defines you. So I'm great. What is great? You stop you're greater than great. You see, like the word great cannot encapsulate what you are. It's just a word. It's an empty word at the end of the day. What you are is undefinable by words. You are that. With your presence, and that presence, that sense of that authentic presence, that substantial, palpable I amness, that isness, has tremendous beauty. And that is your true individual identity as a soul. That soul, that consciousness, can contract into believing it's an image, self-image, for instance. I'm this famous person, or I'm this name, I'm this idea, this belief of who and what I am, which is, again, a contraction. It's less than what you are. And with that, you begin to suffer. There is a sense of deficiency, a sense of lack, because you're missing more than 90% of what you truly are. Or let's say 80%. Does that connect?
It does connect, yeah.
Perfect.
I think, leading on from art talks on ego and intuition.
On that, I just want to bump to the toilet real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So if you want to share something about something, you can just do that.
Yeah, it's just you and I.
I'm back! I'm back!
Yeah.
Sitting in this chair, speaking to you guys. And I know these sounds are now entering your eardrums. You can hear my voice in your eardrums, which is quite unique, which is quite special, what we can do. And I'm looking at the phone, actually. I'm looking at the phone filming this conversation. It's been a very interesting conversation about ego. We went quite deep with a lot of things. So just take what resonates, what doesn't, just leave it alone. We're just, venturing into the nature of things.
Yeah, I think the topics of conversation that we went today were quite complex.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
So, I don't think this would be the first time we touch up on this topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take what you can from it. Maybe it's going to be a shorter episode, so if you want to listen to it once or twice, just really take in what feels right for you. And if you have any questions, if you have any topics you want us to discuss in the future, future episodes, and
let us know.
Please do approach us, message us, or come to Adona.
Check out, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Spotify, and if you feel so inclined, give us a 5-star review on iTunes. That will help us spread the message and spread the podcast. It's up and coming. We're feeling very good about having these conversations, and we really it's all rooted in goodness, really sharing what we have to offer, and just giving it out to the world in celebration. Really, it's pure celebration. That's what we live by at Adona. So we welcome you all. There's an open day, open evening, the Genesis of Adona, happening the 8th of February. All of you are invited. Totally.
We've got an amazing evening planned. Starts at 4 p.m. Go on Facebook or the website to find out more. We're gonna have a group meditation. We're gonna have chatting about the vision that we have here.
Yeah.
We're gonna have teacher introductions, therapist introductions, and we're going to finish it all with a lovely kirtan. We've got a man called Tim Chalice coming in. It's gonna be lovely. So we'd love to see many of you there if you are in Bristol or
totally.
the surrounding areas.
Yeah, maybe we can have like a Facebook Live thing happening as well.
Yeah,
that'd be sick.
Idea,
Yeah, so if people want to
Sweet.
tune in from all over the world, that's possible.
Nice.
It was a good conversation. Wish you all the best, and that's it.
Peace out.
Peace.
See you guys.